Hello and welcome. This is Professor Richard Holowczak, and this is a presentation on downloading Kaggle datasets using the Linux command line. What do we need to do? In Kaggle, we're going to locate a dataset, and then we're going to download our API token file. For this exercise, we're going to use Google Cloud, so we're going to create a compute engine. We'll upload that API token file, we'll set up our Python environment, and that'll allow us to download a Kaggle dataset and unzip our Kaggle data. And then if we like, we can copy our files to Google Cloud Storage. So before we start this, make sure you log into your kaggle.com account and also log into your Google Cloud Platform account. Have those open in separate browser tabs or windows so that you are ready to go. If you haven't created a Google Cloud virtual machine before, make sure you've enabled the Compute Engine API. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got my Kaggle screen open here. I have done a search on Steam reviews. I've clicked on datasets. You can do various filters, and I have found a dataset that I'm interested in. I open that up, and I'm just going to take a look here real quick. I notice that the file to be downloaded is 3 gigabytes, and if I look down here, once that file is unzipped, it's going to be about 8 gigabytes in size. So 3 plus 8 is 11. We need to make sure we're going to have at least 11 gigabytes of space, and we'll probably want even more just in case we want to actually do some work with this. Before we move away from the Kaggle, we're going to click here and open up our settings. Just going to right click and open up the settings, and you'll scroll down to the API section, and we will create an API token. Using Kaggle's API, you can interact with datasets and download them, so this is what we're going to have to do. Now, as soon as I click Create Token, you can see it immediately downloads the file, and I can just go ahead and check over here in my Downloads folder, and yes, I have kaggle.json. Here is where our API token resides. So we'll come back to that file in a minute. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our Google Cloud Platform console. We're going to go to Compute Engine, click on the Create Instance button. We're going to use the US Central Region, an E2 medium machine type, and we're going to change that boot disk to about 50 gigabytes so that we have enough room to download and work with our files. So here I am in Google Cloud Platform. We can go ahead and click Create Instance. You can give it whatever instance name you like. Notice I've got US Central 1 Iowa. This is important because we're going to need to reference that later. We're going to use an E2 type of instance, and the size is E2 medium, which gives us 4 gigabytes of RAM. That should be good enough. But again, the thing that we're going to have to check on here is our boot disk. Right now it is 10 gigabytes, but that's not going to be enough. So we'll go ahead and click on the Change button. We'll come down here to the size, and we're going to change that to, I don't know, let's make it 50 gigabytes. Click on Select. So now we've got enough disk space. Now before we click Create, don't freak out about this monthly estimate. This would be $29.46 if we ran this virtual machine for an entire month continuously. We're just going to run it for about an hour now here, and notice it's going to bill us at about 4 cents per hour, so not too bad. I don't think there's any other settings that we have to change, so we're just going to go ahead and click Create, and our instance will be created out there in a data center in Iowa. While this is creating, I'm going to pause the recording, and I'll come back as soon as the instance is ready. Okay, that didn't take too long. Now we see that our instance is running. We've got the green check mark, and we should be all set to log in. So what are we going to do now? We're going to go ahead and click that SSH button and open a new terminal in a new browser window. You might see a message about transferring SSH keys, and you also might see a message about some security tokens that you have to approve. You can just go ahead and approve them. So I'm going to follow those instructions here. I'm going to click on SSH, and I'm going to say Open in Browser window. And as predicted, we'll have these transfer SSH keys, and you might see the Google security screen will pop up for a second. If you need to enable or allow those connections to be made, you can just go ahead and click Accept. I've already done this previously, so it's going to do that for me. And here we are. We are logged in. I'm just going to maximize this window, and we should be good to go. let's see what we've got in terms of a directory. So we are in our home directory, and this should be following whatever your Google Cloud Platform username is. We can take a look at our free disk space here, and we can see that we've got about 49 gigabytes available to use. That's under the available column. The next thing we have to do is we're going to configure our Kaggle command line interface. We've already visited kaggle.com. We've downloaded our API token file called kaggle.json, and now we need to upload this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our .kaggle directory. The dot is important. We'll upload our Kaggle.json file, then we'll move it into that .kaggle directory, and then we're going to secure the file by using the chmod command to make sure that only we can use this file. So let's go ahead and do that. I will make my .kaggle folder, and we can take a quick look here. Yes, that folder was created. Now we're going to go ahead and upload a file. I'll click the Upload File button. Then we'll click on Choose Files. That'll open up a dialog box. We can click on our kaggle.json file. Remember, that's the file we downloaded from kaggle.com a few minutes ago. Go ahead and open that up. It'll take a second here. And then once we're ready to go, we'll click Upload Files. Again, you might get a Google security screen asking you to give permission to upload the file. And once that goes through, it should just take a second. And after a second, we can see that our file has been uploaded. Let's do a quick check. List out our files here, and we can see kaggle.json has been uploaded. So now we need to move this file into the .kaggle directory. So we're going to use the move command, give the name of our file name, and put it into the .kaggle directory. Now we can double check and take a look in that directory, and we should see our file. And the last step is, notice that right now, as the owner, we have read and write permissions. Others in our group and others on the server can see and read this file, which we do not want. So we're just going to change the permissions. Say chmod 600, which again will give just us control. And the file is .kaggle, kaggle.json. And we'll get a list of files again just to double check. And now the file is secure. We can close up that, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Our next step is to set up the Python environment. To do this, we're going to install the pip3 and virtual environment tools for Python. We're then going to create a Python virtual environment. We'll change to that directory, and we will activate the virtual environment. Then we can install our Kaggle command line interface tools, and we can try out some Kaggle commands. So let's go ahead and get those additional libraries installed. So we're going to need to install Python 3 pip and the virtual environment tools. Go ahead and run that, and while that's loading, I will again pause the recording, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, now we know that those packages are installed, so now we can create a virtual environment. Now you can give this virtual environment any name you like. I called it pythondev. So we're going to go ahead and create that virtual environment. That'll take a second. Now we can change to this directory, and now we can activate our environment. I'm going to type source, bin, and activate. All right, now we are in our new pythondev environment, and now we can install the Kaggle command line tools. So again, this will take a few minutes to install everything. I will go ahead and pause the recording, and I'll be back. Oh, well, it actually finished faster than I anticipated. Okay, so we've got it all ready. Now we can try out some Kaggle commands. So Kaggle, let's do datasets list. All right, great. So it looks like we're getting some data sets. So it's going to give us here the reference. All right, you can see the username and the name of the data set, the title, the size of the data, when it was last updated, how many times it's been downloaded, how many times it's been upvoted, and there's a usability rating. So it kind of wraps around on the next screen here. All right, so good. So we are able to actually interact now with the API. Let's go back over to Kaggle and we'll take a look at one other feature. If we look at our data set and we click on the three dots to the right, notice it's going to have a copy API command. So we're going to go ahead and copy that. And now if we take that command back and paste that in, we can see the command that it's providing for us. So Kaggle datasets download, and then -d gives us a specification for the name of the data set. And if we look at the name of the data set up here, we can see, again, it's the same thing. It's the user's name and then the actual name of the data set. And that's what goes on the command line. So let's go ahead and run that, and we will get this data set downloaded. It shouldn't take too long. It's only about 3 gigabytes, and we are on a pretty fast network connection. Now, keep in mind what's happening here. The virtual machine that's running in Google Cloud, which we said is out in Iowa, in the middle of the country, is downloading this file directly from the Kaggle servers. So this has nothing to do with what's downloading on my computer. I don't have any files, any of these data files downloading on my computer. Now if I go ahead and list the files, we can see here Steam Reviews 2001.zip, and it's a little bit more than 3 gigabytes. Okay. Okay. In order to unzip this file, we need the zip utilities. And I'm not sure that these are available by default. And it looks like they are not. Okay, so we're going to have to install the zip utilities. Again, we're going to use the sudo command to act like super user and apt install zip. Let's go ahead and get that done. Yes, we will install zip utilities. All right. Again, we'll just take another quick look at our files here. And now we can actually see what is contained in this Steam Reviews 2021 zip file. We can do that using the unzip command with the -l option. And then we can put in the name of our file we want to explore. So this won't actually decompress the file, it's just going to give us a list. So we can see here that there is an 8 gigabyte file called steamreviews.csv. If we want to go ahead and extract that file, we can just do unzip steamreviews2021.zip. And now the file will be extracted. And this might take a few seconds to finish up. I will pause the recording while that finishes. Okay, looks like our file is completely unzipped, and now we can see it here. So it was compressed in Steam Reviews 2021.zip, and now it has been extracted. We can take a quick look at this, steam_reviews.csv. And this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what this file looks like. So it looks like it has some headers up there, and we can see the actual contents of the file. Okay, so now we know that the file exists. It's in our virtual machine on our disk. We can check our disk usage and notice we started off, we had about 49 gigabytes free. Now we're down to about 37. So that's something to keep in mind. If you start getting errors when you're unzipping your file that you've run out of disk space, this could be why. Now, another nice feature is if we had more than one file here in the Steam Review zip file, we can actually unzip one at a time. You don't have to unzip all of the files as I just did. So I think the next thing we want to do now is we want to create a bucket in our cloud storage, and then we're going to copy our Steam Review CSV file to that bucket. So to do that, I already have a command line prepared. We're going to use the gcloud command. I'm going to say storage buckets create, and then I'm going to give a name for my bucket. I called it my project bucket with my initials. This is my Google Cloud Platform project name, using the default storage class as standard, and the location is US Central 1. Remember, we said that we're going to come back to that. My virtual machine is running in US Central 1, so I want my bucket to be created in US Central 1. Then we're within the same region so that we have the fastest access to our storage bucket between the virtual machine and Google Cloud Storage. So we're going to go ahead and give that a run. Okay, so I ran that command and I got an error that my access was denied. If this happens to you, you're going to need to authenticate this virtual machine. In other words, Google needs to know that you are going to give permission for this virtual machine to be able to create a bucket. So I'm going to do that with the gcloud auth login command. Go ahead and give that a run, and it's going to ask us to go ahead and set that up. Okay, so I followed the prompts. I opened up this really long URL in a browser. I received a response code, and now we should be all authenticated. So let's try that gcloud command again. And now my bucket is created. All right, so I have this bucket called my project bucket RH, and I have a local file here. So now I can just copy my Steam Reviews file into the bucket. So the command line we're going to use is gcloud storage cp. CP stands for copy. steamreviews.csv is our local file, and we're going to copy this over to cloud storage, my project bucket, and then we're going to put it in a folder called landing. So this should create the Steam Reviews CSV file in our landing folder. So let's go ahead and run that. It's going to go ahead and copy our file over. And again, I will pause the recording while that gets copied. Okay, looks like our file has been completely copied over. And so now we can just do a quick check to verify that it is there. So we're going to do gcloud storage ls, and we'll put in our files, and it looks like everything has been uploaded. I wonder, is there a -L option on this? Let's try. Let's see if we can get a little bit more information. Ah, there we go. Great. Okay, so -L gives you a longer format here, and it can tell us exactly how much has been taken up. I think if we just show the landing folder, it should show us a similar thing. And yeah, all the same sort of thing. It's just going to show us the file and or files that are there. I guess, yeah, we could also double check if we go to our buckets here. Let's see, let me just refresh this page. And let's take a look at, here we go, my project bucket RH. And we can look inside. We've got a landing folder. And inside of our landing folder, now we have our file. Perfect. So now we have kind of completed the whole process here of downloading a file from Kaggle, having it land on our Compute Engine virtual machine, and then from there we can get that file pushed over onto our Google Cloud Storage, and now that it's in our data lake on cloud storage, we can continue processing that with either Python or PySpark or any other analytics software that we want to use to work on that. Okay, before this video ends, just one more quick point. We have two choices at this point. We can either stop our virtual machine instance, which will preserve all of the files that we have here and all the configuration that we've done, but we will be charged for the storage, or we can terminate the instance and everything will go away and we won't be charged anything. So let me close up this browser and then we'll go over to our virtual machine. And again, I can click on that. If I stop this instance, then it will no longer be charged for the running instance, but we will be charged for the data storage. If I delete the instance, then everything goes away. Now, in my case, I don't mind doing the configuration again, and now that I have my files on Google Cloud Storage, I don't need this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete. It'll ask, do I want to confirm deletion? I will delete it, and that will start the deletion process. So once this instance is deleted, I will no longer be charged for any of the storage or any usage whatsoever. So go ahead and make that decision, but make sure you either at least stop your instance, and if you don't need that instance anymore, you can go ahead and delete it, and then you won't be charged anything further. And I think once that's done, then we're all set with this particular video. I will see you in the next one.